And well, as scheduled, we are going to have a talk on. No, we are going to have a talk on. No, we are going to have a talk on transcendent and transcendental. Professor Pramod Kumar Das has got to deliver on this lecture on this title, but he got a bit late in arriving to his residence from from Nayagarh. So it will be a bit late, say 5 to 10 minutes late. So in the meantime, let us see into the philosophy of Immanuel Kant as to what Professor Das tried to see and say during the course of his last lecture. His last lecture was on the Kantian revolution and reconciliation of empiricism and rationalism. So Kantian revolution, what it is, you see, earlier the thinkers were of the view that the mind has to approach the objects in order that the objects are known by the mind. So what was the belief? What was the general guiding principle that was existing before Kant? The belief was that the mind has to approach the objects in the external world in order to know the objects. But Kant said, this is not true, this is not correct. What Kant did is, he said, no, actually, the pattern, the belief that you are going on, that you are having, is not actually correct. Rather, he said that the objects that are existing in the external world, okay, in order that they are known, they have to approach the mind. Earlier, it was believed that the mind has to reach the objects, but Kant made a reversal in thought and said, it is the objects in the external world that have to reach the mind through the senses in order that the objects are known to the mind. So this is the change, this is the reversal in thought that Kant has brought in. So how is this knowledge possible? You see, whenever there is an object outside, the sensations of the objects are got by the 5 sense organs that we have. The sensations of the objects, okay, the sensations of the object existing in the external world, they are received by the 5 sense organs. Now these sensations are distributed among the 12 categories of understanding. They are accordingly classified among the 12 categories of understanding in the mind. There are a priori categories of understanding which are 12 in number. All this sense data, all the sensations that are received through the senses, they are divided among the 12 categories that we have in our mind. Now, by a synthetic activity of the mind, this division of various sensations into the 12 categories are again put together to give a form of the external object that is perceived, and that's how the object is known. So this reversal of thought Kant has brought in. So what is the reversal of thought? The reversal is, earlier it was the belief that mind has to approach the objects in order that the objects are known. But the revolution that Kant has brought in is that no, it is not the mind that has to reach the objects, rather it is the objects that have got to approach the mind in order that they are known by the mind. So this is the reversal of thought that Kant brought, and it is called as Kantian revolution. Okay, so sometimes Kantian revolution has been is also referred to as Copernican revolution. Okay, why Copernicus is attached with this Kantian revolution, especially in the field of astronomy. Copernicus has brought a similar reversal of thought during nearly the same contemporary period. What was the reversal of thought in astronomy? In astronomy, there was a belief in the Ptolemean theory that the Earth is at the center around which the Sun is revolving. This was the belief. What was the Ptolemean hypothesis? The Ptolemean hypothesis is Earth is at the center and around which the Sun is revolving. But Copernicus made a reversal in thought by saying, no, it is not the Earth which is at the center. Rather, the Sun is at the center around which all the 9 planets are revolving. Earlier that was the belief, 9 planets. So Sun is at the center around which all the planets are revolving. You see, this hypothesis, apart from being very simple and very clear and very precise, okay, so you see, there is a total reversal of thought. So this sort of revolution has been seen in the field of epistemology in the Kantian philosophy. That's why Kantian revolution is also referred to as Copernican revolution in the field of epistemology. So this is one part that has been discussed during the course of the last lecture. And one more thing is reconciliation. What is this reconciliation? Actually, if we look into the history of philosophy, starting from Descartes normally to the philosophy of David Hume, you see, from Descartes to Leibniz, we find a rationalist thread. And from Locke till David Hume, we find a rise in empiricism, and empiricism has reaches its climax in the philosophy of David Hume. So two threads, two currents that we can find in the entire history of philosophy. One is empiricism and other is rationalism. The rationalists, they wanted to have a certain knowledge, and they say that it is through reason alone we can have a certain knowledge, the knowledge of the sort that Descartes claimed. Okay, but the empiricists say no. They say no, all knowledge comes out of experience. It is experience that leads to that gives rise to knowledge. So there was a debate as to what exactly constitutes knowledge. So Kant came to the rescue, where he asserted, no, we cannot deny rationalism, nor we can deny empiricism. So both empiricism and rationalism are required for the knowledge to be possible. So he made a reconciliation of empiricism and rationalism to give rise to what is called as synthetic philosophy or the critical philosophy that we saw during the course of the last lecture. So I now feel that Professor Das has arrived. Now over to Professor Das for the lecture on the transcendent and the transcendental. So Professor Das, welcome.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskar. Am I audible, sir?
Sir, audible and visible, sir. Namaskar. And carry on, sir.
Respected Dr. Rao, very esteemed participants of this session. Today, I'm sorry that I get late, but Dr. Rao is here to manage everything. He is a good moderator, very good advisor, very good coordinator, very good friend, philosopher and guide. Thank you, sir. Today we have a very beautiful topic, that is transcendent and transcendental. There will be some repetition of the past talk, as some new participants have joined and it is necessary for their interview. Anyway, Kant was an idealist. Kant became a critical philosopher after being influenced by David Hume. Basically, all German philosophers are idealists. So, Kant was an idealist. Kant awakened from the dogmatic slumber by the help of, by the impact of the philosophy of David Hume. David Hume claimed that knowledge is impossible. So that leads to skepticism. No empirical knowledge is possible. There is no question of metaphysics. But the knowledge of physics is also not possible. So this became a great headache for Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant said that if knowledge is not possible, then what is the use of philosophy? Philosophy is love of wisdom. So philosophy without knowledge is not philosophy. So knowledge is possible. This is the revolution. Number two, both empiricist philosophers and rationalist philosophers before Kant, Descartes, Spinoza, Leibniz, and Locke, Berkeley, Hume, all these philosophers claimed one thing, that for knowledge, for epistemology, for knowledge, object of knowledge is outside the mind. Suppose I know a table. So table is the object of knowledge. Knowledge of a table and the object of knowledge is table. That object of knowledge exists outside mind. So mind has to confirm the objects for knowledge. This was the general conviction of all philosophers, including both the schools, rationalists and empiricists, before Kant. Therefore, the problem started from Locke. In philosophy, there is one problem. If you start with a wrong assumption, then your conclusion will be wrong. So be very much careful about the first assumption. If your premise is wrong, then conclusion must be wrong. So Locke, the problem started with Locke. Locke claimed that mind is a tabula rasa. Mind is an empty chamber. There is no innate idea at all. If all ideas are acquired from experience. Without experience, there can be any idea in mind. That means mind is passive. Mind has very minimal role or no role at all in the field of knowledge. This was the problem with John Locke. But mind is there. John Locke does not deny the existence of mind. Mind exists. Mind is there. But mind is passive. There is no innate idea in the mind. Nothing is a priori. Nothing is a priori means nothing is independent of experience. In the language of Kant, Locke will say nothing is transcendental. Transcendental is a very technical term. Generally, we mean by transcendental that something beyond experience, something beyond. Something beyond means it is metaphysics. But Immanuel Kant has used this word transcendental in a very specific sense. He has used in the epistemological sense. Here transcendental means something that is independent of experience, the a priori form. So in the language of Immanuel Kant, John Locke will say, there is nothing transcendental about the status of mind or about the status of knowledge. There is nothing a priori. Nothing is independent of experience. That means everything is dependent upon experience. Without experience, we cannot have knowledge. This is one thing. And we can have knowledge only through experience. This is the second claim, and there is a problem in the second claim. Experience is necessary, that's all right. But knowledge is possible only through experience. This is the problem with John Locke. And this problem was infected in Berkeley and highly infected in David Hume, who claimed that not only metaphysics is impossible, but also the empirical knowledge is also not possible. Because we cannot have any substantial source at all. There is no substance. Every perception is discrete. Every idea is discrete. So there is nothing universal. There is nothing necessary. Nothing is necessary. Nothing is universal. Everything is discrete. Everything is discrete and distinct. So this is the view of David Hume, and according to this view, knowledge is impossible. No question of a God, no question of a self, no question of a mind, no question of a body, no question of a substance, no question of a universal relation. Nothing. Only the discrete sensations, discrete, and out of that sensations, by human habit, by the psychological law of association, man has imagined many such ideas. So if we speak of metaphysics, if we speak of anything substance, that is only human imagination. And that is a psychological compulsion. And that is developed by our habit. This is the situation of David Hume. So that disturbed Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant made a revelation by saying that no, mind is not passive, mind is active. So this is the difference. Mind is passive. All knowledge are derived from experience. Immanuel Kant said mind is active. In this way, Immanuel Kant went against empiricist philosophers. Then from this it implies, then Immanuel Kant must follow the rationalist philosophers because this is against empiricism. No. Rationalist philosophers have also problem. Rationalist philosophers claimed that all ideas are innate. This is also a problem. Mark the situation. There are two extreme claims. Leibniz claimed all ideas are innate. This is a problem for Kant. That means there is no scope for experience. There is no scope for matter. There is no scope for sensation. All ideas are innate. Everything is spiritual. There is a spiritual force, and by that spiritual force, the entire world can be explained. Each and every monad, which is the spiritual unity, atomic unity, that can explain the whole reality. So this is a problem for Kant. Kant does not agree that experience is rejected outrightly. No. There is a scope of experience. Without experience, we cannot have any idea. That is just like to build a castle in the air. When we are building, when we are living on the ground, but our foundation is there under the ground. So underground foundation must be there for the on-ground construction. So on-ground construction is not possible underground foundation. So to speak of rationalization, to speak of ideas, a priori forms without experience is just like to build a castle in the air. So this was the problem of rationalist philosophers who claimed Descartes somehow managed that some ideas are innate, some ideas are adventitious, some ideas are fictitious. It is a common sense philosophy. Descartes' philosophy is a common sense philosophy. Yes, it is true. Some ideas are innate, there is no problem. Some ideas are from experience, there is no problem. Some ideas are imaginary, there is no problem. But the problem took place in the philosophy of Leibniz, who claimed that all ideas are innate. Those who are going to face the interview, please listen carefully. That in every sentence there is an answer to a question. For example, who said all ideas are innate? Answer is Leibniz. Who said no ideas are innate? Answer is Locke. Why? What made Immanuel Kant a critical philosopher from idealism? That is David Hume. What was the common problem with rationalism and empiricism? This is the question. Then the answer is that all the rationalist and empiricist philosophers believed that for knowledge, the object of knowledge must exist independent of mind, and mind is passive. So many questions are there which I have already addressed and answered. So in course of discussion, carefully notice the questions and answers. Anyway, what I was saying, sir, what I was saying,
that even rationalism, he is not just empiricism, he was also against rationalism. So you have got to say.
Yes, I got. He was against rationalist philosophers. He was against empiricist philosophers, it's understood. But he was against rationalist philosophers because they claimed that all ideas are innate. That means there is no scope for experience. This is not accepted. Second, another problem was developed by Leibniz, who said pre-established harmony. That everything is established by God. So this type of theology is not rational. It is a dogmatic assumption. So without any rational justification, if we say that everything is pre-established, then it is also dogmatic. So generally we think, this is another question, generally we think dogmatism is related to empiricism. No, both rationalism but dogmatic. That means there is a scope of a dogmatic possibility in both rational thinking and empirical inquiry. Even if you are rational, Don't be a dogma. Don't be biased by extreme rationalistic tempo. That you will miss the matter of facts. You have to live in this empirical world. This empirical world is very practical. If there is any society, that society is meaningful in this empirical world. If there is state, if there is government, everything is meaningful in this empirical world. So only conceptual analysis, only analytical discussion, only linguistic analysis is not philosophy. Philosophy should be practical. Philosophy should address our empirical life and empirical problems. So we cannot say that all ideas are innate, all ideas are innate, and everything is pre-established by God. Kant is also speaking of a pre-established a priori forms of forms. But Kant's pre-established a priori form is epistemological. Leibniz pre-established relation is theological. Kant says problem is with the rationalistic philosophers. Why do they claim the existence of God? Because they miss the empirical world. They miss the empiricism as epistemology. So we have to see the limit of our knowledge, the limit of human mind. One is the limit, other is the possibility. What is the limit of our sense organs, and what are the possibilities of our sense organs? Number one. Similarly, what is the limit of human mind, and what is the possibility of human mind? If a person is aware of these both, he is a complete personality, he is a rational philosopher, otherwise he is dogmatic. So empiricist philosophers and rationalist philosophers, they failed calculating this method. Neither they focused on the limits, nor they focused on the possibility. They just went in one side way, one traffic. That was the problem. So what is the limit? What is the limit of rationalism? The limit of rationalism is that there shall be no rationalization without experience. Rationalization is possible if something is given to rationalize. Suppose we have a grinder. Grinder will grind. But if we do not put anything to grind, then what it will grind? So the grinder will grind when something is put into it for grinding. So if there is a scope for rationalization, then there must be something, some subjects, some data which are required for rationalization. So without experience, no rationalization is possible. No conceptualization is possible. So this is the limit of rationalism. What is the possibility of rationalism? The possibility of rationalism is that it is not only universal and necessary, as rationalist philosophers claimed, it can be also objective. This is the possibility of rationalism. Before Immanuel Kant, rationalist philosophers claimed that whatever is universal and necessary, that cannot be objective. For example, mathematics. For example, geometry. For example, deduction. That is universal and necessary, but that is not objective. So not objective, this is the limitation. But Immanuel Kant said, no, this possibility is also there. That whatever is universal and necessary, that can be objective. Second position is that another criticism to deduction or rationalization is that, or mathematical or analytical statements, we generally criticize that they do not speak any new thing. That means they do not increase our knowledge. They do not promote our knowledge. They do not advance our knowledge. Immanuel Kant says no. They also increase our knowledge. How? They are not only analytic, they are also synthetic. That means all universal and necessary statements can be related to our experience. In that way, the a priori forms can help increase our knowledge like empirical knowledge, like inductive inference. In inductive inference, Dr. Rao very nicely was telling yesterday that it is inductive inference. There is a scope for new knowledge. Therefore, we are advancing. Therefore, we have new technology. We are getting advanced day by day. So that means this merit of empiricism goes against the rationalism, that they don't have that scope, that they are moving in a circle, premise to conclusion, conclusion to premise. There is a circle. Whatever is said in the subject, that is said in the predicate. A is A, B is B. So the predicate repeats the subject. So it is there is no new information. But Immanuel Kant says no. Universal and necessary statements, they can increase human knowledge because they are rooted in experience, and he demonstrated that possibility by saying synthetic a priori knowledge. That a priori and synthetic both are possible. We shall discuss that later on. Just I am just discussing what is the problem for Kant. Kant is not criticizing anybody. Kant is just trying to make a reconciliation. Reconciliation is a compromise. Reconciliation is a synthesis. So philosophy is not only analytical. Philosophy is synthetic by nature. That we should synthesize the merits of the opponents. If there are two groups, they are opposite to each other, they have two different claims, then we have to take the merit points from both the parties and to synthesize that. That is called the dialectic method. That is a constructive dialectic method. Constructive dialectic method is not criticism. That I just criticized and I became famous as a critical philosopher. No. I criticized as Descartes. Descartes doubted to get certainty. So Descartes is not a doubter. Descartes' aim was not to doubt everything, to reject everything. No. Descartes doubted everything to reach at the certainty. Therefore, Descartes is not a skeptic. This is also a question, whether Descartes is a skeptic or not. Descartes is not a skeptic because Descartes doubted, it's true, but Descartes had an honest intention that my doubting is a method. My doubting is not psychological. My doubting is not, my doubting is only a method to reach the certainty. Similarly, Kant's criticism is a method to synthesize the merits of the opponents and to construct a healthy philosophy, a healthy epistemology. How the universal necessary knowledge can have objective usefulness, and whatever is empirical, that will have also the universality and necessity. You see the how we are fulfilling the lacuna of each party. There is lacuna, there is demerity in rationalism that it is not objective. Immanuel Kant said, no, you shall be objective. Your contribution shall be objective. Number two, empiricist philosophers that you are discrete, you are separate, as David Hume said. So you don't have any universality, you don't have any necessity. Immanuel Kant said, no, empirical knowledge that can have the universal and necessary status. That is how not only that is how Kant made a revolution in philosophy, that he synthesized the merits of the opponents and constructed a beautiful philosophy. But he did not forget to focus on the limit of human knowledge. That anyway, if I am criticizing dogmatism, then my philosophy at least should not end with dogmatism. So he was very much careful about the limit of human knowledge. So what was the limit of human knowledge? In spite of taking the merit of both empiricism and rationalism and making a beautiful synthesis and making synthetic a priori knowledge possible in every field of knowledge, Kant is aware of the limit of human knowledge, that our knowledge is only the knowledge about appearance. We cannot have any knowledge about the truth. Truth is truth. What is truth? That is not known to us. Whatever we know, that is only appearance. So this is the limitation of a human mind, which stands after all these qualifications, after all these syntheses, after all these compromises. Therefore, Immanuel Kant is very much critical. Very much critical means he is very much aware of the limit of limitations. And he is at the same time, Immanuel Kant is aware of the possibilities. What is the possibility? Immanuel Kant says that man has a sophisticated mind. Man is different from animals only because man can have discriminative knowledge. Man can discriminate between good and bad, right and wrong, dharma and adharma, everything. Man can discriminate. That discriminative power, that intelligence, that rationality is lacking in animals, though they have a brain. They have a brain. Human beings have brain, but human brain is more sophisticated, is more organized. Immanuel Kant says that my mind means the mind of a human being is well organized mind. Number one. Number two, my mind is pre-organized, pre-programmed. Leibniz said everything is pre-established. Kant said It is not pre-established by God. Human mind is pre-programmed. That means we are not talking about an individual mind, that my mind or the mind of Rama or the mind of Hari. Immanuel Kant is speaking of the general mind, that universal mind. That means the mind of each and every person has the same constitution, have the same form. That means every mind is pre-programmed. And according to that program, mind is able to grasp the empirical world. This is the contribution of Immanuel Kant. I am repeating, forget everything what I have said till now. So think that my talk starts now. Immanuel Kant is claiming that human beings, man has a mind. Human mind is programmed, well programmed, better programmed than animals, and it is pre-programmed, and it is universally programmed. Universally programmed means I may be more intelligent, I may be more intelligent, and someone may be more intelligent than me, but there is a common program. There is a common program in each and every mind. So we are interested in what is common to all. That is universal. If I am different from different in something, then that is distinction. What is common to all minds, that is the common program. So Immanuel Kant says that every human mind is well programmed, pre-programmed, universally programmed. So according to that program, human mind is able to grasp the empirical world. So empirical world that is claimed to be our knowledge is nothing but the consequence of the production of our pre-programmed minds. This is the beauty of Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant is saying, therefore many philosophers, therefore Shankaracharya is speaking in one way, Ramanuja is speaking in another way. That distinction is there. But the common point is that there is a common program in each and every mind. What is that common program? Immanuel Kant divided mind, the status of mind, into three types. You see, now what is the status of the empirical world? The empirical world is now become secondary. But empirical world is there. Empirical world is not rejected. But the monitor is our mind. Therefore mind is active. Mind has an active role in the knowledge situation. So what is that active role? That is three types. Number one is transcendental aesthetic. Number two is transcendental analytic. Number three is transcendental dialectic. Transcendental aesthetic, transcendental analytic, transcendental dialectic. All human knowledge, all the possibilities of human knowledge, including physics and metaphysics, are covered by these three dynamic structure of human minds. If we are going to know something about empirical world, then we have to follow one of these model. If we know about metaphysics, still also we have to apply one of these models. So transcendental aesthetic says that is the sensation, that how to organize sensation, how to organize sensation means the perception of the empirical world is through the pre-programmed mind. I had said that mind is pre-programmed and everybody's program is same. So whenever we perceive the empirical world, each and everybody may be a great philosopher and may be a village farmer. This common faculty is there. This common faculty is there. May be a great professor in university and may be a very illiterate person in the village. All persons have the common faculty that without space and time, which are a priori forms, nobody can perceive anything. Whatever is perceived, that is perceived through space and time. This is, by saying this, Immanuel Kant says that mind has an active role. No perception is possible without mind. So what was claimed before Kant? For perception, mind has no role. If you have sense organs, you can perceive. Through sense organs, we perceive. Through sense organs, we perceive. But Immanuel Kant said, without the interference of mind, you cannot perceive. Whatever we perceive through space and time. In Indian philosophy, the same thing it is claimed by Nyaya system. Nyaya epistemology says that not only sense organs are responsible for perception, mind interferes. If you are absent-minded, you fail to perceive anything. So the contact between sense organ and object, this is also one question, mark it. According to Nyaya system, the empirical perception is not only possible by the contact between sense organ and object, that there is a fourfold contact. Contact between object and sense organ, contact between mind and sense organ, contact between soul and mind. If all these contacts will be there, then we shall have a sound perception. Only contact of sense organ and object is not knowledge. If your mind is somewhere, if your mind is absent, all accidents take place only because of the absence of mind. You see the bus is coming, but your mind is somewhere, therefore you faced the accident. So your mind should not be absent. So this is also claimed by Nyaya system. So whatever is said by Western philosophers, that is said in Indian philosophy long ago. Anyway, we are not making any comparison, but Immanuel Kant made a revolution in philosophy by saying that mind is very much active. Mind has an active role, even in perception. We cannot perceive something without the active role of mind. Without the active role of mind. So that is the space and time. How space and time are transcendental? Space and time are transcendental because space and time are not perceived. Space and time are not dependent upon our perception, but through space and time, everything is perceived. As the video camera can shoot everything, but it cannot capture the picture of itself. Our eyes can see everything, but we cannot see our eyes. We can see the reflection, the image of our eyes through mirror, but that is the mirrored eye, not the original eye. So the source through which everything is perceived, that is not perceived. That is transcendental. The word transcendental means it is independent of experience, but it is very much conducive for experience. It is very much useful for experience. It is the condition of all types of experience. So in that sense, it is transcendental. Not only in empiricism, not only in perception, wherever this element we found, that is called transcendental. So space and time are a priori percepts. A priori percepts. They are called percepts because this is a question. Why space and time are percepts? Space and time are percepts because they are the a priori forms of sensibility or a priori forms of perception. Perception, percept. Conception, concept. So a space and time are a priori forms of a percept. A priori forms of a percept because they are the a priori forms of a perception. Without space and time, nobody can perceive anything. I had given the example in the last session that there is big ocean and there are a lot of fish, and we have a net, and the net have some hole, and that these holes have a particular size. So now the mathematical question is, what type of a fish can be caught in our net? So the net is the a priori condition for catching the fish. The net is the a priori condition for catching the fish. Okay, according to the size of the hole of the net, we can catch the fish. If we shall increase the size, then we can lose small fish. If we shall decrease the size, then we can catch many types of fish. So according to the size of the hole, we can catch fish. That means what type of a fish will be caught by the net, that depends upon the preconditioned holes of the net. Another example is, if you wear a yellow spectacle, then you can see everything yellow. So what you see, that is dependent upon the color of your spectacle. Similarly, what is your worldview, what is your philosophy, what is your understanding, that is according to your mental structure in the very highest sense. Therefore, somebody is a Advaita Vedantist, somebody is some Visishta Advaita Vedanta. There are many philosophical systems only because there are different structures of human mind. I am giving another example, very current example, so that you can understand. SSC recruitment is there. Notification, watch out. But everybody can't apply. The a priori condition is that those who have at least whatever is the minimum, that is universal. What is maximum, that is not universal. No, everybody is not a PhD candidate. But the minimum qualification is you must have 55% in graduation. Then you can apply. So the ocean is there. All the candidates are like fish, but the whole, the recruitment whole is 55% in post-graduation. So that is the a priori condition you have to obey. You have to follow. Second, somebody will say 73 posts. So all the posts are ours. So why there is reservation? Reservation for female, reservation for SC, ST, etc., etc. No. That is the a priori condition. If you agree, then you apply. If you have to agree with all the preconditions. Therefore, that is called notification. When there is a notification, there are certain a priori conditions. You may like it, you may dislike it, but you have to follow the a priori conditions. So through this scrutiny, many candidates are out who have not secured 55% in post graduation and who do not prefer this reservation system. So they will not apply. So this is the a priori condition. Suppose many candidates applied and many candidates qualified written. So this transcendental aesthetic is out. Now data are collected. But there is interview. There is a board. There are some experts. You don't know what types of questions will be asked to you. That is a priori. So that is the a priori condition, that the experts will ask questions according to their a priori condition. That is a priori means that is not known to you. So through that category also many candidates will be out, and finally some candidates will get the job. So it is very common sense. If there will be no a priori form, we cannot have any knowledge system. Wherever you go, there must be something a priori form. A vegetable market, the non-veg market, the stationery market, everything has an a priori form. Bus stand means buses will be there. Railway station means trains will be there. So a priori form is very much necessary for understanding the empirical world. This is transcendental aesthetic, and in transcendental aesthetic we shall discuss that in the next session. Next Saturday, the topic is transcendental aesthetic, that we shall discuss in detail. But my point is, Immanuel Kant is claiming that mind is active not only in conceptualizing, analyzing, criticizing, but also in perceiving the world. In perception also mind has an active role, because mind has some a priori structure, that is space and time. Without space and time, we cannot have any perception, external perception and internal perception. Even what you feel, feeling of a pleasure, feeling of a pain, that is also conditioned by time. So that may not occur in a space, but that time is the between space and time is most universal. The time is most general, which is the a priori condition of both external and internal perception. So without space and time, man cannot have any perception. So what is the conclusion? From this, the world is divided into two types. Whatever is coming through space and time, that is one world. That means which fish are caught by the net, that is not the total fish. That is the very minimum fish, because every day we are catching fish. So the quantity of fish is too much. Huge amount of fish are there in the ocean. But according to the size of our net, we catch fish from the ocean. So here the world is divided into two types. Mind it. This thing will come again and again. Here this world is divided into two types. Therefore, Immanuel Kant ended his philosophy with dualism. This position, if we fix an a priori condition to perception, then the perceptual world will be divided into two types. Whatever comes under these a priori conditions, and the world that is beyond space and time. Beyond means out of the space and time. Out of space and time means out of human mind, out of human perspective. So that is the limitation. That is the limitation. Human mind is limited to know what is beyond space and time. So every human mind is so structured that it can grasp only that which comes under space and time. This is the difference between God and man. This is the difference between Brahman and man in the Upanishad. This is the difference between Brahman and Jiva. Jiva is conditional. Jiva has mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. Through these chitta vrittis and these antakarana and chitta vrittis, human ignorance is mapped. So beyond that, man cannot access to the reality. But Lord Krishna or Brahman, Antarjami, Vishwarupa Darshan is that he can see the totality because he is beyond space, beyond time. I am giving one example so that we can understand. In time situation, there is a logical additive, logical contradiction. If we say that you cannot stay at two places at one time. Here comes space and time. One person can space, time and person. Stana, kala, patra. Three things. One person means patra, person. Cannot stay at two places, space, at one time. That means at one time, one person cannot remain present at two places. This is a contradiction. If you are in the college, you are not at a home. So you are conditioned by time. Your existence is conditioned by time. But when we speak of a pure existence, pure consciousness, pure bliss, Satchit Ananda, when we speak of Isavasyam Idam Sarvam, when we speak of Sarva Khalidam Brahma, in that situation, Brahman is all pervasive. Tat ejati, tat non ejati. Brahman can remain present at not only at two places, but also in every space. Isavasyam idam sarvam. But everywhere Brahman can remain present at the same time. So this possibility is also accepted by Immanuel Kant in Transcendental Dialectic. We shall discuss that. So Immanuel Kant has covered everything. Physics, that is called transcendent. Transcendent and transcendental. The transcendent is metaphysical. So Immanuel Kant says this possibility is also there, but question of God, question of a soul, question of a world, nature. Nature means the real nature. They cannot be structured through human reason. We have 12 categories of understanding. We have two a priori forms of percepts like space and time. Through these conditions, we cannot have any idea about God, about soul, about nature. So God, soul, or nature and nature, they are uselessly articulated by human reason. So that leads to transcendental illusion. That is a very beautiful concept, transcendental illusion. So, because why there are transcendental illusion? Because these illusions are created by the extra factor. Extra factor means which is not related to our forms of sensibility and forms of understanding. That means space and time and 12 categories of understanding. Anything that does not come under these structures, if we claim that is real, then that is an illusion. So God is such a concept, soul is such a concept, and nature or world is such a concept. These concepts, these truths, these realities are not through the a priori forms of space and time or 12 categories of understanding. If you insist to claim their existence, this is a transcendental, this is called transcendental illusion. Immanuel Kant was unmarried. He was living with his servants, whole life one servant. His servant was illiterate. He asked Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant was so humble. He discussed everything with the servant. And when the servant is getting to know the same philosophy from his master, so he also understood the philosophy of Immanuel Kant, and he asked Immanuel Kant, then what is my merit being with you for the whole life? You don't accept God, you don't accept soul, but I am a believer in God. So what is for me? Because I am with you since long. So Immanuel Kant said, no, you have also philosophy, you have, God is also for you. For you means those who believe in philosophy. That means the transcendental illusions are called illusions only when they are claimed through the region, human rationality, human psychology. Only when that is, only then that is called illusion. But these are not illusion if you take them according to your faith. So transcendental dialectic is very beautiful. Transcendental aesthetic is about empiricism. Transcendental analytic is about rationalism. Transcendental dialectic is faith. So beyond these two dialectics, means empiricism and rationalism, there is another scope, that is faith. So I can perceive, I can conceive, also I can believe. So belief has no limit. So faith has no limit. So he said to his servant that you must believe, you must believe that there is a God, there is a soul, because without that faith, one cannot be moral. One cannot be moral. Therefore, Immanuel Kant said that there are three postulates of morality. One is the existence of God. This is one question. Existence of God, immortality of soul, and free will, freedom of will. These three are the postulates of morality. So the existence of God must be believed, should not be reasoned, must be believed as the postulate of morality, because without that man cannot be moral. We shall discuss that. That is transcendental dialectic. So transcendental aesthetic speaks about the possibility of a perception. Transcendental analytic speaks about possibility of a judgment, and transcendental dialectic speaks about possibility of a faith. So, and all these three are the three structures, a priori structures of human mind. Therefore, that is called transcendental. They are transcendental. So, transcendental, 5 minutes more. Transcendental aesthetic is about sensations, collection of sensations. That sensations are collected. Immanuel Kant is accepting the empirical world. The empirical world must be there. Without empirical world, no knowledge is possible. David Hume said, knowledge of both physics and metaphysics is impossible. Only mathematical knowledge is possible. But that is good for nothing. because it does not speak anything new. Immanuel Kant said, knowledge of physics is possible. Empirical world, knowledge of the empirical world is possible, but it is conditioned to human mind. This is the revolution. So transcendental aesthetic is a discipline of mind that is focusing on the structure of a human mind in collecting data from the empirical world. So data are collected. Now we have raw materials, but we don't have knowledge. Collection of raw material is not knowledge. So Immanuel Kant differs from John Locke. John Locke says that knowledge is originated from experience. Knowledge is originated from experience. Immanuel Kant says knowledge is not originated from experience. Knowledge begins with experience. The begins with and originates from, there is a difference. If we say knowledge is originated from experience, then there is no scope of mind. Knowledge is originated, means created. Immanuel Kant says, no, knowledge begins from empiricism, processed through mind, processed through judgment, understanding, and goes to the climax of a reason. Begins experience, understanding, and a reason. These are three faculties. So knowledge begins with the experience, is processed through understanding, and reaches the climax of a reason, where metaphysics is possible. Metaphysics, we can speak of metaphysics in another sense, where faith has a vital role. Anyway, so transcendental aesthetic says that knowledge begins from experience. Transcendental analytic says whatever is received from sense experience, that should be processed through human understanding. But man is not free to understand, or human mind is not free to understand by its own way. Human understanding is also pre-programmed. Human perception is pre-programmed. Human understanding is also pre-programmed. So human understanding is also transcendental. There are 12 categories of understanding, and all types of understanding come under these 12 categories. When I don't have time, but many things I skip. Here, very important thing that should be spoken. Just tolerate me. When we are applying the categories of understanding, 12 categories of understanding, there is no contradiction. There is no dialectics. Dialectic means the opponent views are established. When we are applying the categories, we have categorical judgments. We have definite judgments. When we apply our reason in a higher sense, that means when we go beyond the categories of understanding, when we discuss about God, about soul, and about world, there is a possibility of a contradictions. Some will say God exists, some will say God does not exist. Some will say soul is immortal, some will say soul is immortal. So these contradictions will be there. So Immanuel Kant says, through rational cosmology, we cannot explain the cosmological phenomena. It is impossible because through our categories we can speak of the apparent world, the world, not the cosmos, real cosmos. The real cosmos means the thing in itself. We don't know the thing in itself. We don't know the table in itself. We see the table that appears to us. So we are confronting the apparent world, the world that appears to us. So the real world is the thing in itself. That is the thing in itself. The real cosmos that is not possible through cosmological psychology. That is not possible through that. That then another is rational cosmology. Sorry, rational cosmology. Rational cosmology cannot speak about, cannot explain the real cosmos because rationality is conditioned by 12 categories of understanding. Similarly, rational psychology cannot explain the existence of soul because rational psychology is conditioned by categories. Rational, and the third one is rational theology. Rational theology is also not possible. Okay, so rational theology is not possible. So theology is not possible by rational way. The existence of soul is not possible through reason or through rationality, and the existence of a cosmos, that is also not possible through reason. So that comes under noumena. That is the realm of noumena, which are beyond the realm, which are the thing in themselves, which we cannot know through our structure of human minds. So our world, our perceived world is the structured world, mentally structured world. So we are perceiving our own structured world, the world that is structured by our minds. So our mind is our world. So the perceived world is structured through our minds. So beyond the structure, there is noumena. There is thing in itself. Okay. So just 1 minute. Mind is active. Mind is programmed. Mind is pre-programmed. Mind is universally programmed. And because mind is programmed, the empirical world is perceived partially, and the another part is not perceived, which is not coming under the a priori category, a priori forms of perception, and from that the world became divided. Then whatever is perceived through our a priori forms of perception through space and time, they can be scrutinized through 12 categories of understanding, and by that we can have judgment. So what is human judgment? What is human declaration? That we claim our knowledge. Our judgment is relative by nature. Our judgment is related to the structure of a human mind. So this is for today. In the next session we shall discuss transcendental aesthetic, then transcendental analytic, then transcendental dialectic in details. So this is the introduction to Immanuel Kant, and mind has 3 possibilities: transcendental aesthetic, transcendental analytic, and transcendental dialectic. And also I told transcendental illusion. What is transcendental illusion? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Das, for your lecture. Again, another good lecture. Well, what Professor Das wants to say is, when we talk of the transcendental, it refers to the a priori forms of intuition that may be in the form of the categories or the space and time. But when it talks of the transcendent, it refers to the nomen. So the transcendent and the transcendental should not be confused. So transcendental implies a conditioning of the mind under which the knowledge is possible. So space and time are the conditions. If you talk of the categories in the mind, they are the conditions under which the knowledge is possible. In that sense, transcendental has been taken. But transcendent is different. Transcendental is different from transcendent. When any talk of transcendent refers to what is called as the noumena. Well, in the chat box, I find Sayana Prabha Mishra. Well, the question is ill placed. Actually, phenomena has nothing to do with noumena. Well, there may be a belief in the noumena. Well, Kant does agree in a noumenal world, but phenomena has nothing to do with noumena. Whatever that is subject to the categories of understanding, as Professor Das said, that is possible with reference to all that exists in the phenomenal world. And whatever you talk, what Professor Das talked of the transcendent, he made a reference to God, soul, and the world in totality, that is not subject to the categories, and hence they fall under noumena. And more translation on this, over to Professor Das.
She is asking the question that is noumena possible without phenomena? This is her question. The answer is no. Why no? Kant is speaking about dialectic. Dialectic means when dialectical thinking starts, if you know something, if you have a...
One thing I interpret, she's talking of understanding of noumena. There can be no understanding of...
Okay.
That is the problem in the question.
Okay. The understanding of noumena is possible by dialectic. Then what is the dialectical thinking? According to dialectical thinking, if you have a thesis, if you have knowledge of something, then you should, if you are a really rational, you should think of its opposite. This is the dialectical thinking. Then what happened to Immanuel Kant? Immanuel Kant very sincerely, carefully started from a priori forms of perception. He collected data. Then he scrutinized the data through 12 categories of understanding. Then he reached at a phenomena. He now, according to this structure, he arrived at a epistemological station, that is the phenomenal world. So when man reaches at one station, then only he can think of the opposite. If by my endeavor, my effort, I could find the phenomenal world, then what can be the noumena? For example, when we catch fish through our net, we very much know that if these are the fish caught by the net, then there must be some other fish in the ocean. Hegel said it very beautifully. Hegel said that if there is a boundary, then if there is a boundary, there must be something outside the boundary. You may not know what is there outside the boundary. Boundary suggests, the very boundary means there is something outside the boundary. If the phenomenal world is the boundary of our knowledge, our understanding, then there must be something beyond that boundary. Okay, so after getting known the phenomenal world, Immanuel Kant started thinking dialectically that there must be the opposites. And then he wrote another book, that is Critique of Practical Reason, in which he is speaking about the reality of phenomena, God, soul, etc. So, for the understanding of phenomena, phenomenal world is necessary. Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. To know Brahma Satya, to know that Brahma is Satya, we have to understand that this Jagat is Mithya. If we don't have any understanding Jagat is Mithya, if we are not aware of the relativity of the cosmic world, we can't know that Brahma is truth. Brahma Satya and Jagat Mithya. Jagat Mithya is phenomenal knowledge. Brahma Satya is noumena knowledge. Okay, so both supplement each other. Thank you, thank you. Dr. Rao, over to Dr. Rao. Another question is there any distinction between Hegel consider? Just I told that. What is agnosticism? Agnosticism means I don't know. There is something, but I don't know. Skepticism means knowledge is not possible. Impossibility of knowledge is called skepticism. Not knowing is agnosticism. As Locke said, substance is there, but I know not what. Immanuel Kant is saying that noumena is there, but it is not known through the categories of understanding. Agnosticism is not knowing. Agnosticism does not reject the existence of something, but skepticism rejects the existence. That knowledge is not possible. This is the difference between skepticism and agnosticism. That I don't know. Next question.
Well, my connectivity was lost for a while.
I answered two more questions from chat box. Now, Shrabani madam has asked one question.
There is, because I have my connectivity was lost, so everything is deleted from the chat box. No more question I find in the chat box. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, I am reading the question of Shrabani madam. She is asking the question. Shrabani madam. She is asking one question, that if human understanding or experience is pre-programmed, then how it is transcendental? This is her question. Am I audible to Dr. Rao?
Now audible. Now I got back.
Shrabani madam is asking the question that if everything is pre-programmed, your understanding is pre-programmed, experience is pre-programmed, how it is transcendental? This is her question. The answer is pre-programming means transcendental. If something is pre-programmed and you have to act accordingly, that is called transcendental according to Kant. So your answer is there in the question. Pre means prior to your knowledge, prior to experience. That is the definition of a transcendental. If something is pre-programmed, then that is transcendental. Okay. Our understanding is pre-programmed, therefore it is transcendental. Yes. Now over to Dr. Rao to conclude the
Yes,
session.
yes,
There is
yes.
no question
I don't
in
find
the
any
chat
question.
box.
There was a network issue. I could not listen, say, for about 5 to 10 minutes, 5 7 minutes.
Now one question more. One question more.
Acha, that, this question,
Uh,
why human is skeptic? I could see.
Sir, you answer it. I have already said you answer it.
No, you can carry on with it. Carry on.
Okay, Hume. I am repeating again. Hume is skeptic because Hume said that knowledge is impossible. Those who say that knowledge is impossible, they are called skeptics. Many philosophers, many claim that Descartes is also a skeptic, but Descartes is not a skeptic. Descartes started his philosophy by doubting everything. So doubting has many purpose. Okay, doubting is not skepticism. What is our intention? The intention of a Descartes was to reach at the certainty. So doubting was a method. When five persons are arrested on a doubt, that does not mean all of them are culprits. They are arrested on doubt. Then there will be trial in the court, and they may be released. So doubt is a method. Doubt is the beginning. If your inquiry begins with doubt and ends in doubt, then we can call that he is a skeptic. That means knowledge is not possible. But whether David Hume is a skeptic or not, there are two answers. Answer is yes, answer is also no. Answer is yes in that sense that David Hume said that empirical knowledge is impossible, which awakened Immanuel Kant to start his philosophy. Therefore, he wrote three books: Critique of Pure Reason, Critique of Practical Reason, and Critique of Judgment. In that sense, Hume is a skeptic. But Hume is not a skeptic like other radical skeptics because Hume has admitted the possibility of a mathematical knowledge. Hume is saying that mathematics is possible. So at least there is a scope for knowledge that is in mathematics. In that sense, Hume is not a radical skeptic. He is not skepticism not in a radical sense because Hume has accepted mathematical knowledge as possible. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Professor Das. Well, one thing that I wish to say to Sahana Prabha, well, Hume is not denying knowledge as such. Hume is questioning the certainty in knowledge, the possibility of a certainty in knowledge. That is the problem that we find in Hume. It's not saying that knowledge is not possible. He is all he's all set for a claim of a certain knowledge. The way Descartes used to say, that sort of certainty can never be assured through experience, through empiricism. So that's why, in that sense, we can think of Hume as a skeptic. But again, he's not a skeptic because, as Professor Das said, he believes in somehow a sort of certainty while accepting the mathematical truths which are based on, say, on a certain structure. Okay, that's how he's not a skeptic. But again, when you uh, take him to be a skeptic, he's not denying knowledge as such, but he's denying that there is no possibility of having a certain knowledge. Okay, like the way we have in mathematics. So that sense, he's a skeptic. Okay, thank you. But again, still, Sayana Prabha's question still lays in my mind. Say when she says how we understand noumena, I say actually the very word coinage of understanding noumena is a problematic coinage. I say a belief in a noumena rather than understanding noumena. Well, that may be a phenomena. Maybe in the dialectics we may talk of noumena, but the coinage understanding, I don't know whether Kant would admit understanding because rather that would well, to account for morality, well, that may be a belief pattern. Maybe in dialectics, as you said, it is based on faith. So the word understanding would be a misnomer with respect to noumena. That's my belief. I don't know. Well, Sravani Misro tries to say something. Really, class was very thought-provoking and very useful. Understand, explain the program. Thanks for starting the program. Okay, okay. Anyway, thank you, Shravani, Mr. Madam, for your connectivity and for always being there in this program. So thank you so much. So I should by thanking Professor Das and all those who raised the questions, Sayana Prabha, Mishra, then Shravani, Mr. Madam, and others who raised questions. It was a beautiful session. So now let us move to Swarna Tripathi Madam for proposing a formal vote of thanks.
Sir, Madam is not here. So
Okay, okay, okay. So it was a beautiful lecture. Then again in the series, so Professor Das delivered very beautiful lecture on transcendental and the transcendent. There is always a confusion among very good scholars even as to what is transcendental and transcendent. There is a confusion, but very nicely Professor Das tried to sort out the difference between transcendental and transcendent. So thank you so much, sir. I should thank even all the participants for making this webinar successful. I should thank all those, Shravana Mishra, Shana Prabha Mishra, and all those who raised questions and who became the part of this program. So, and also thank Swarnal Tripathi Madam, even though she is absent, because she was also connected to Philosophy Family 3 Wisdom Forum. So I should thank her, and also thank the speaker. Above all, I should thank the speaker for his patience, for his effort to keep the programs in the family alive, and he's always busy in scheduling programs and also delivering talks. So a lot of patience is required, a lot of hard work is required, a lot of sincere effort is required. So for this, I express my lot of thanks to him. So with this, good words to all, and for the good of the family and for better discussions to follow in the coming days to come. With this hope, let us declare this meeting closed. This much for now today. Thank you all.